Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Captain's Table. I am your host, Captain B-Nard, and topic of discussion today is going to be a review and reflection of my Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Wi-Fi Battle series. So, we're going to do this the same way that we always do. I'm going to go over a bunch of facts and figures about the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Wi-Fi battles here on the channel, make some general comments, and then of course look toward the future of content here on the channel. So business as usual for one of these summary videos. So yeah, we're not going to waste any time. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So first off, I do want to make some general comments about the game and about the Wi-Fi battles on the game. So this is probably mostly stuff that I've said before, honestly. But at the risk of repeating myself, I will say that overall, I kind of had some mixed feelings about this game, and if you guys have been listening to me for any length of time, you'll probably know that to be true. On the one hand, I did really like getting a remake of Generation 4. It was something that had been in the works or had been rumored for quite some time. It was something that I personally was really looking forward to because Generation 4 is one of my personal favorite generations for a number of different reasons, not the least of which is that it did get me back into Pokemon back in the day after I had effectively quit. So it was also the first game that I got into competitive battling. So I really did want to like this game a lot, and I ended up wanting to like it a lot more than I actually did like it. So um, I did like it for some reasons, but there were definitely drawbacks. There were downsides to the game, and the main drawback to this game is that I have to say it was probably the most unsupported mainline game ever released for Pokemon. And what I mean by that is they kind of just released the game. It was less of a remake and more of a re-release of the original Diamond and Pearl games. They basically just updated all the graphics for the Switch, and then they made a couple of minor tweaks here and there. Most of the tweaks actually were negative in my opinion because it was removing items, removing moves that uh, were available prior to this. So in the original games, I should say, were available in the original games. So um, also the move tutors and Battle Frontier and all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely not what I had hoped for in that department. Additionally, it also kind of carried the burden of the 20-minute timer from Pokemon Sword and Shield, which, as you guys know, I have complained extensively about that on many videos. And unfortunately, they carried that 20-minute battle timer over to this game, which is a huge issue as far as getting Wi-Fi battles because we had a lot of games on this game that went to the timer, and a lot of which would have actually been games that could have been finished if we would have had a mere, 5, 10 extra minutes on the timer. So the other downside is that when the original Diamond and Pearl were released, obviously, every Pokemon that existed at that point in the Pokemon franchise was available on this game. Whereas now with the remake, uh, I believe there's an extra well over 400 Pokemon that have been released in generations 5 through 8 that were not available on this game in any capacity. Not only that, but we didn't even get any DLC. We didn't get any Pokemon Home update that would allow you to transfer um, any regional variants or anything like that from the Pokemon that were in the Pokédex on this game. So just a lot of handicaps overall with the game. So I do have, like I said, mixed feelings. I go back and forth. There's a lot of nostalgia here for me, which is one thing, and the game wasn't bad as the originals were not bad, but at the same time, all of those. Downsides that I mentioned can't be ignored. So, but yeah, having said all of that, I will say that I did enjoy doing the Wi-Fi battles here. I actually probably enjoyed the Wi-Fi battles more than I thought I would, given all of those those negatives that I just mentioned. But yeah, it just kind of was what it was. So having said all of that, we're going to go ahead and actually get into the stats that I had promised. All right, so here we go. As you can see, we're going to start off with some general stats um, about the battles themselves. So, as you can see, I had a total of 74 different Wi-Fi battles here on the game. Easy to keep track of because I do number all of my battles. Obviously, you guys will know that by now. So of those 74 games, 69 of them were singles matches, and only 5 of them were doubles matches. So the single battle 6v6 is really and has always been the standard here on the channel, and is for a great deal of content creators as well. I do find it to be the funnest, or most fun, I should say, way to battle on the game, and so I do like to add a little bit of variety to the content, which is why I have a few doubles battles thrown in there. But yeah, most of them are going to be singles matches, and I believe I had a total of, I think, 10 core different teams here that I used on BDSP, comprising I believe about 6 battles each. So that was pretty much the bulk of the content of the singles battles there. So, of those 74 battles, I won 58 of them and lost 16 of them, and that puts my win percentage on BDSP at about 78%. So, I will tell you guys the same thing that I've told you every time I've done one of these summary videos, is that at the end of the day, I can't post every game that I have, although just about every game that I had here on BDSP that went to completion got posted. Virtually all of them, I will say. Um, and also, I want to say that I am not out to make myself look good by any stretch of the imagination with these stats. I just try to deliver an accurate representation of how well the teams that I build do, and sometimes they do good, sometimes they do not quite as good. Um, but yeah, that is just kind of where it sits for the channel as far as wins and losses. I definitely don't like PokeTubers who choose to post only wins and they don't show you any of their losses. I'm not like that, and I've never will be like that, and I've never been like that. Um, I just try to post the highest quality battles I can for you guys, the most competitive games I can for you guys, as a general rule of thumb. Um, and so those battles, moving along, took place. I had 66 different opponents for those, and used 64 different Pokemon, and 21 of those Pokemon were Pokemon that I had never used before in a Wi-Fi battle. So roughly a third of the Pokemon that I used were ones that I've never used before, and that's something else that I try to do in all of my battle series, is I try to use new Pokemon that I've never used before. I try to pick ones that I like, that are cool, not necessarily ones that are overpowered. Actually, if anything, I kind of go out of my way to avoid using overpowered Pokemon, because I think it makes the game a lot less fun. Um, but I love creativeness. I love originality from the game and from team building. That's probably the most fun aspect of the game to me. So, and it was kind of a handicap to only be working with generations 1 through 4 here, but still I was able to dig up enough Pokemon that I had never used before that I wanted to use, that kind of made that work out pretty well nonetheless. So, moving along, we are going to come to the opponents here on the channel. So, as I mentioned, 64 different opponents here on the channel. I have them all listed here by name, and I have them in by quantity of appearances from top to bottom, essentially. So, in BDSP here, unfortunately, unlike most of the other battle series that I've had, there were only 4 opponents that made multiple appearances here on the channel. And capping off the top of the list, of course, we have the infamous Joey Fontaine making 4 appearances. Then we have Al, a friend off of Discord, making 3. Adam, aka Southside Braves, another friend off of Discord, making 3 appearances, and then Kane, a fan off of Discord, making 2. By the way, I should actually note, so the numbers next to the names here are going to indicate, the first number will indicate how many times I defeated them, and second number will indicate how many times they defeated me. So pretty self-explanatory there, but you can see my records against those opponents. And then after that, we're going to have all of the one-off opponents that I defeated, and then all the one-off opponents that I lost to, listed off. But yeah, I will say about this that I am a little disappointed that I wasn't able to get more rivalries going on the channel this generation. More rematches against different opponents here, and main reason for that is a lot of players that I used to battle on a consistent basis actually didn't play BDSP or didn't play it at all, probably for a lot of the aforementioned issues that I had with the game. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to really get many rivalries going as I kind of hoped. So I do like to have a good balance of different opponents, as well as rivalries on the channel, and unfortunately, this time around, due to those circumstances, I wasn't able to get quite as many rivalries going as I wanted to, and hopefully that's something that next generation we can fix. But nonetheless, it is just kind of what it is at that point. So moving along, you'll see all of the opponents that I defeated in the one-off game here listed alphabetically. So if there were any opponents that had the same name as each other, to which there was only one, I believe, there, the number in the parentheses is going to be the game that they were in. So there you had, see, I had 2 people named Eli that I faced, one in Battle 11 and one in Battle 51, both of whom were victories for me, which was nice. But yeah, this is the laundry list of people that I went 1-0 against on BDSP. There's Just Weevil, fellow PokeTuber. Most people, most of them are just randos, though. Most of these people are just randos. Um, or there's the battle room, the infamous 2022-2021 battle room that a lot of people try to get good competitive 6v6 games from. So a decent number of those opponents were from there as well. And then at the bottom of the list, you can see all of the one-off opponents that I went 0-1 against, or that I lost that one game to. Yeah, I don't think there's really anyone else here to note that I actually know. So yeah, again, the overwhelming majority of the opponents on this game just ended up being randos, one-off games against randoms, which, like I said, I do enjoy getting a decent amount of games like that. But like I said, I do wish I could have gotten more rivalries going. So like I said, hopefully I think we're gonna try a little bit harder. We're in a couple of more Discord servers now than we were at the beginning of BDSP, so we could probably get some more rivalries going next generation, which will be nice. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about that as far as the opponents go. So we're going to move down to the Pokemon. So as I mentioned, I use a total of 64 different Pokemon on this game. They are going to be listed in order of appearances. So capping off the list at the top, we have Old Faithful Aggron, coming in at 11 different appearances and 11 different battles here, I should say, on BDSP. Now, an important note here and this is something that I've always done this way, is that if I used a Pokemon, or if I brought a Pokemon to a game, but I didn't actually switch that Pokemon into the battle, I don't count that as an appearance for the Pokemon. So I actually have to have used that Pokemon in the game in some capacity, by switching it in at least, in order for that to count as an appearance for my statistics. So yeah, you can see the Pokemon that I use the most here on Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and since 1/3 of these roughly are Pokemon I've never used before, obviously by default that means two thirds of these Pokemon are ones that I have used before. So we have quite a few tried and true favorites from the channel here. So obviously the Aggron, obviously the Gastrodon, um, and then obviously the Cresselia as well, and then some Pokemon that I've maybe only used one other battle series up until now. Um, and then yeah, kind of just filters down. Obviously, we have our Flygon, Hitmonlee, Pidgeot, some Pokemon that we've used quite a lot over the years. Some Pokemon that we haven't used in a very long time, like the Roserade, the Infernape. These are Pokemon that we've used, I think, all the way back in ORAS, our very first ever Wi-Fi battle series, where was the only time we used some of those. Um, So yeah, just a whole laundry list of different Pokemon here. So we're pretty tight around like 7, 6, 5 appearances for a lot of these Pokemon, just due to the fact um, that I had 6 games per team with these teams. So that would be the reason that we're pretty tight around that number. So then we had those some random doubles games and some random singles games as well. Um, yeah, there's Arcanine, another tried and true uh, call out there. I think we passed Snorlax as well. Um, yeah, just some Pokemon that we've used quite a lot over the years that we've brought in once again in BDSP. So, and then some ones that we've never used before, obviously sprinkled in there. The Pokemon God himself, Bibarel, um, and then Palkia, also another one we've never used before. So, yeah, feel like we got a pretty decent variety of Pokemon here in this game of both returning and new Pokemon. So that was kind of the goal, because I do like to try and keep things interesting and entertaining for you guys, and also for myself as well. So moving along, we're going to get to the type breakdown of these Pokemon. So, of course, it's the top of every typing list that I ever make for one of these videos. Water, going to be at the top, with me having used 11 different water Pokemon on this game. Then we have Flying, Electric, Psychic coming in at 8 different Pokemon each for those. And then it just kind of filters down from there, as you can see. And it goes all the way to the bottom with Dragon Fairy only using 2 different Pokemon of those types, and then Ghost only using 1 different Pokemon of that type. So in this game, obviously it was a little weird because it was only Generation 4 and before that Pokemon. So there weren't, for those of you who might remember, there weren't a lot of great Pokemon of those types back then. So I think that's a big reason for the type breakdown the way it is in this game. So normally I would like to use a lot more of those types of Pokemon because they are very strong, but not a lot of great options when it comes to those types in these older games, and that really does shine through. But all in all, I do feel like I got a pretty decent spread of types. Again, that is kind of the goal here, is that I try to get a decent spread of all different types, just to kind of make things as interesting as possible for everybody. So then we can also look at the Pokemon by generation here, and this is going to be a rather short list because once again, only generations 1 through 4 Pokemon are available here. So 25 Generation 1 Pokemon I used here on BDSP, then 19 Generation 4, 14 Generation 3, and only 6 Generation 2. That's kind of a pretty typical breakdown for me because that's kind of like order from top to bottom of how much I like each generation and the new Pokemon that came out of each generation typically. So Gen 2 is one of my least favorite generations, as I think I've said multiple occasions, just for, which Pokemon were released. So that's usually always at the bottom of all of these generational breakdowns. But again, I do try to get a decent spread of those as well. I try to get a nice balance of everything for the most part, so that I can kind of make everything as entertaining as possible for you guys. Um, but yeah, I think that pretty well sums up the stats for BDSP. So, a couple of closing remarks here. So, once again, overall, I did have fun with BDSP. I would have liked to have more fun with it. Um, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I really think what would have saved this game in the eyes of the fans, generally speaking, was DLC. Um, I think if they would have come out with, if they would have done the same thing that they did with Sword and Shield, where they had like an expansion pass where you get like an extra area, and they could have done that really easily. They could have had like a platinum expansion pass content. Could have charged a couple of bucks for that, and they could have used that as an excuse to bring in some more Pokemon, like a handful of Pokemon. Well, more than that, I would hope, but bring in some Pokemon from generations 5 through 8. They should have also ported the Hyswenian forms over from Legends Arceus. I think that was, not having those available really was a huge blow to the psyche of the BDSP players, I think, myself included, just because you have Legends Arceus, which is not really a mainline game. It's kind of like, um, a casual game, and you have so many, like, over a dozen, I think, probably closer to like 15 or 16 new Pokemon on that game, including regional variants. So yeah, that was something that was a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, myself included. So yeah, I think that, but DLC, going back to the main point, I think DLC would have really redeemed this game. But unfortunately, it just felt like the makers just kind of threw it out there, and they were like, okay, well, it's time for a Generation 4 remake, so we're just going to update the graphics and just throw it out there for you, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, but what can you do? What can you do? That's kind of my parting thoughts for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. There is, could have been better, could have been worse, but at the end of the day, what can you do? So, but yeah, to answer that question, what we can do is we can look toward the future. In the future, as I'm sure all of you know at this point, is Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violets, and those are going to be coming out in roughly a week from now. So I started to allude to this a little bit in the last episode of the Captain's Table, but I am pretty pumped up for these new games. I'm not going to say they look incredible, because they look good. They don't look amazing, but I am just ready for a new generation after not really having anything new this whole last year with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I am definitely ready for new Pokemon. I'm ready for new stuff, and I do like most of what I see out of Scarlet and Violet so far. So, um, yeah, as far as the content goes for Scarlet and Violet and the time frame we're looking at, I will say I don't 100% know what that's going to be. So obviously, I can tell you guys at this point for sure that content will be kind of sparse here on the channel for the next maybe month or two, I want to say, give or take a little bit, just because obviously we're done with the BDSP Wi-Fi battles. Scarlet and Violet is coming out roughly a week from now. I do plan on getting the game on release day, and I will be powering through it, and obviously we'll be coming out with a full-blown review of that Captain's Table episode, I should say, in the form of a Captain's Table episode. That will be coming out. There will probably also be another couple of Captain's Table and or Captain's Quests episodes kind of sprinkled in there between now and then. But yeah, we're going to be doing all that, and then obviously after that, the plan is going to be to start up a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Wi-Fi battle series. So that is really the big end goal that I'm going to be pushing for. Although, as I mentioned, I can't give an exact time frame on that at this point because I don't know how easy or difficult it's going to be to um, make competitive Pokemon on those games yet, since obviously the game's not out yet, so we don't know that. But I'm hoping that they bring back a lot of the quality of life updates that they gave us in Sword and Shield. I'm really hoping they do that because Sword and Shield, I think, was probably the easiest game to make legitimate competitive Pokemon on that I've ever played. So I'm really hoping that they bring back pretty much all the mechanics from that game. I'm hoping they make it as easy on Scarlet and Violet as they did on Sword and Shield to make competitive Pokemon, and I'll be happy with that. So, but yeah, that remains to be seen. So I am excited for it. I want to see what it's all about, and yeah, in a short amount of time here, we are going to get to see what it's all about. So, but yeah, until then, I think that'll do it for this one. So, that's it. Thanks for watching again, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, and/or subscribe if you did enjoy, and stay tuned for more new videos in the future. So, that's it, and we'll see you next time.